All right, we are rolling here live. Imperial Pizza in South Buffalo. I've done over the past year or so. I got involved with Imperial Pizza doing shows here, and a lot of fun ones. And I felt like it would just be fitting to do the last episode of Talking Buffalo here live at Imperial Pizza. I am joined by recurring guest, my good buddy Tone Pucks. Not your first time here, your second time. We did one on the patio before. First time inside though. What's going on, man?
Yeah, I'm definitely digging the inside vibe for sure.
Yeah.
Is this like just your last live at Imperial this
So
year?
last
or
episode this year.
Last episode this
I think
year.
so. I think so. This is going to drop Friday.
Yeah, okay.
New Year's is Monday, so
All right.
probably won't.
So what's up, man? Like a year in review special? Is that what we're stepping up on right here?
No.
Come on, let's do it anyways. year in review.
I'll tell you this.
Welcome to the Talking Buffalo year in review podcast tonight.
We're going to talk some Bills. We're going to talk some Sabres. We're going to get in a bunch of things here tonight. I had a lot of guests come through the hallowed doors here at Imperial Pizza this first year doing them. Seriously, though, I say that sarcastically, but like Stevie Johnson's been here. I've had Eric Wood, John Fina, Sal Capaccio, Tim Graham, Tyler Dunn, Matt Bovee, a bunch of other guys from the media, some athletes, but they all pale in comparison to Tone Pucks.
Very nice. Good.
Yeah, you like that?
Good. It was good build up.
I love
the usual 7 out of 10 on delivery, if I'm being generous. But that was nice.
I gotta be honest with you too. I was a little bit wary because the one time we did do a show here, and again, it was much better weather, so we were outside on the patio. But I was reminded that we did a preview of the Jacksonville Jaguars game going to London, and we spent a lot of that show being guarded against a letdown. I said I wasn't worried about it. You said you were, but we both agreed that the Bills were handling the traveling at that time the right way, going late, and it turns out that was really wrong. So I'm a little bit nervous right now about doing the show with you here live.
Pat, we've been wrong about about 50% of the time, bro. Let's be honest here. No one's tuning in for our insider information.
All right. Well, that's fair.
All right.
That is fair. On a serious note, and by the way, we got some wings coming afterwards. This is, I say it all the time, Imperial Pizza is one of the best places, one of my favorite places for wings, for pizza, subs, all kinds of stuff like that here. Not only in South Buffalo, but now they got a second location at 1665 Main Street, right near Canisius College. Before we dive into some Bills talk, because actually we haven't really talked this week other than maybe setting this show up tonight for a couple minutes. So I haven't really talked to you about Christmas, man. How was the holidays? I did see a nice photo on Facebook of you and your entire family, all the kids, that was pretty cool, man. How was your Christmas?
It was good. It was the first opportunity, I think, since the adoption to really throw something out there on Facebook that had all 5 of my children together.
Sure.
I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. All right. I am not like a steady-handed father of 5. I'm somewhere in between the steady-handed father and Frank Gallagher from Shameless. I'm like probably leaning.
Rich, you're watching that show
more
for the first
Frank.
time.
I am, man. I'm digging it. I can see where it got off the rails a little bit, but I ain't got shit better to do really with my TV viewing. So that's like, I'll get home tonight and watch 2 episodes of Shameless for sure. But yeah, it gave me a chance to, because before the adoption, I wasn't able to put any pictures of, the 2 younger ones,
right?
That basically were like family, not long after, we started to foster them. So between not being able to post that on social media and, the 3 older ones never being home at the same time, Christmas was the first opportunity not to have them all together, but to rack some likes up and build my self-esteem a little bit.
Sure.
With the all 5 kids. And of course, Sherry, and one of the older ones has a fiance now as well. So, everybody has to get in. And, let me think. Probably because when I came back on Facebook, I'm only around like 200 connections, I guess we call them now. So I hit at about a 25% like rate, which I think, for a holiday picture of the entire family is kind of where you want to be.
Yeah, I used my kids for a good picture. In fact, I don't remember what I said.
I
But
don't think I caught
it was,
it. I don't
it
think
was
I-
bullshit.
I
It was
don't think
something, gifts are wonderful, but this is all that matters.
Oh, yeah.
And my ass, that's not all that matters.
I got it.
Gifts matter plenty, man. I mean, I don't know who would say otherwise. All right, so this is a big week, man. We got a lot to get into with the Bills and the Sabres. Let's start with the Bills. And we always say, we're going to talk Sabres, and then we save that shit for like the last 3 minutes. But I got a lot on my mind about that team, and I'm pretty sure that you do as well. When it comes to the Bills, it just feels like so much has changed in just a short couple weeks. Going back to that Philly game, and the Bills are 6-6, and regardless of what side of the fence, and we've talked about it plenty, Tyler Dunn's series on Sean McDermott, whatever side of the fence you fell on with that, whether you thought it was too much, whether you enjoyed it, it was scathing. I mean, that's pretty much a universal sentiment. That is a scathing article on Sean McDermott. But so much has changed now. We were talking about this being a championship caliber roster potentially early in the year to it's not, to the playoffs are very much in question, to not a lock yet, but looking pretty good to get into the postseason right now. Let's talk a little bit for you about how much things have changed, maybe not just with the team, but also your perception of them as things stand right now.
Well, over the course of today, as the recording drew nearer, I eventually kind of got into my usual place of, the fuck, I got to do this again. but it was me who reached out to you,
Yeah, you did.
On Tuesday and said, hey, man, what do you got going on today? And it was because I haven't really had many opportunities to preview a game, or I think maybe in this case, a couple games.
We're usually right after.
Yeah, we're giving like immediate reactions after the game, maybe some looking ahead, obviously at how the game that just finished might impact the rest of the season, but with a little bit of excitement, with a little bit of adrenaline, with a little bit of renewed optimism, is a place where I wanted to be to have a spot with you today. So thank you for squeezing me in. And I can tell you that my opinion of the season, or, my optimism for a playoff run is back on. It's back on. Now I like to think that I started to hedge this way a little bit after the Brady hire, and the way the offense started to perform, and again the way injuries impacted the rest of the AFC.
Sure.
That was huge.
Big.
You know what I mean? I mean that was huge. But you could start to see, right around the 6-5 mark, even though we lost the game to Philly that particular week. You could start to see a door opening. You could start to see a door opening that I did not think was there during the worst of the Dorsey weeks, and certainly the coming off the injury weeks. I mean, I said Super Bowl is just out of play right after Jacksonville.
You're not. You did say that. You weren't alone.
No, I know. But I'm not gonna like dig my feet in right now and be like, well, I said that then, so I'm standing by it. No, I mean, it's all of a sudden, with the exception, I'll say it like this: without a dominating performance by the Ravens in San Francisco's home stadium, we would be talking about the Bills every bit as a potential AFC favorite.
Yeah,
I think it would be wise to cool on that a little bit, because you've got a Baltimore team that's a couple games up on them, and just they showed they're for real on Christmas night.
Very balanced team.
So you might have to pump the brakes a little bit on the Bills being a favorite, but division or otherwise, I think if you were to look at the betting odds when they open up for the AFC playoffs, I unless Miami looks terrific these next couple weeks, okay, even by beating us, and unless maybe they do it in a dominant fashion, I got to think we're right there as maybe two A and 2B with Miami, right? Like
Sure.
Baltimore, us, and Miami, and then I think people are off KC, and that might be the wrong thing to do to come off KC. But I think the bettors are certainly going to come off them when it comes to the AFC Super Bowl representative. So, long-winded answer. It's unbelievable to me to be back in a place where we could be talking about a legitimate run to at least be in the game. You know what I mean?
Sure.
To at least be there. And you know what? Now we might stop. I think I was ready to say, hey, we got a good look at the AFC, but a week ago we would have said, hey, yeah, but San Francisco's just going to roll the AFC. Now I don't even know that anybody's really, saying that anymore. The Bills are a Super Bowl contender, but it would certainly play out a little more advantageously by going the path of the division winner with at least one, potentially two home playoff games. So though, being a Super Bowl contender is great. Work to be done though, man.
Oh.
I mean, work to be done over these next couple weeks. All right, to be back in your house. I don't care that that it ended in your house last year. It's still where you want to be, man. It's
Sure.
still where you want to be. 10 out of 10 times you want to host.
On the video side, if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook Live, we're doing this Thursday night. On the audio side, if you're not listening to this sometime on Friday, I don't know how loud this is going to be, but it's pretty loud here at Imperial Pizza, but that's okay. I go back to that Philly game, and we watched that game together along with our buddy Jason, who was in from town. And I just remember, the Bills playing a really good game, but then they got really Billsy near the end. And I remember us both sitting there staring at the TV, never being so more confident in anything in our lives that dude was going to make a 59.5-yard field goal to send it to overtime. And then the Bills get the ball, and they don't score a touchdown on their first drive. They settle for a field goal. And I think the sentiment in the house at that moment was the game was over as soon as the Bills didn't score a touchdown. And we were right. And they did lose that game. So the Bills are 6-6, and they're going into a bye. And then that Tyler Dunn series comes out the following week, which created a complete shitstorm, good and bad, all over social media. Is still being talked about right now to this day, because a lot of people think that actually was a factor in helping turn the Bills season around. But anyway, my point is, as we sit here live on a Thursday night, there's basically two coin flips going on right now. Miami at Baltimore on Sunday, quite possibly without Jalen Waddle, too. Baltimore wins that game. You got Bills Miami week 18, which essentially could be another coin flip. The Bills are maybe two coin flips away from being the number 2 seed in the AFC. That's what I can't get over right now, in a good way, of course. But thinking about that Philly game at the end of the game and how we felt in that moment, in fact, you were so mad you didn't even do the podcast that day. You left. You left before Jalen Hurts even got into the end zone. You left before he even got in the end zone. But it was just such a gloomy time. And now we sit here a handful of weeks later at a pizza joint right now talking about a very realistic, not even so much optimistic, but a realistic chance that the Bills could actually be the number 2 seed in the AFC. It's crazy.
The Kansas City, I think a lot of people, thought that Kansas City would just roll the Raiders. All right.
Oh, yeah.
And B, I don't think people really started to think about the 2 seed as quickly as some others did. I feel like, the prospect of winning the division was still kind of fresh in people's minds and people's hopes, that the idea of potentially being the 2 seed, which would mean as long as you win and move on, you'd host 2 playoff games, potentially 3
Sure.
if Baltimore were to be upset. The idea of that it didn't really seem real. And then I'm watching the Raiders start to roll, and I'm like, and I had to go back. I had to do the double check the standings. Like, am I right? Is KC sitting there with 5 losses because 6 gives us the tie break? You know what I mean? I had to. There was so little buzz about the potential for the 2 seed that I had to go back and think if
Jacksonville was there too one time.
Yeah, exactly. No, people didn't necessarily see the South falling into what is looking like an obvious 4. That's happened over the course of the last couple weeks. The potential for the 2 seed is just mind blowing, man. It is so exciting. I got a little annoyed on Twitter, like the day after the Kansas City loss. There was so much, and this could be, how you have your feed configured and what kind of people you follow and stuff like that. But all I saw was Josh MVP talk versus Lamar, and defending Josh, and all this, fighting with other fan bases over Josh for MVP. And I'm like, how is that how we came out of the week? I mean, I get it. We have a favorite player, he's our big golden retriever. We love him. We want to back him. But man, it just, we weren't making enough of the potential for the 2 seed, at least in my mind. Fans weren't, that just seemed secondary to this newfound Josh Allen MVP talk because, Brock Purdy laid an egg. I don't give a fuck, man, about that Josh Allen MVP talk. You want to,
I'm not sure he does either.
I know, but our fan base is kind of obsessed with it, bro. And I'm like, why?
I did a whole show on it, so I really can't talk shit about the fans. I literally just did a show 2 days ago about Josh Allen and where he's sitting.
Yeah, but you were solo, and I'm not saying it was a mail it in, but you were solo on that one, weren't you?
I was solo, and it was a semi-mail-in. I didn't feel like I usually do a film week, a film study, PFF grades analysis on Wednesday.
Oh, and it's easier to just go on an opinionated piece.
Write down 2 or 3 things and just keep talking for 40 minutes.
Well, and it's no surprise that you would jump all over that. You go with the buzz. You know what I mean? You stick with the buzz. That's fair.
That's fair.
And look, the buzz was Josh Allen MVP talk.
I don't think it's dead,
the buzz. The buzz around this town should be the 2 seed.
Sure.
The 2 seed would be bananas.
Agreed.
Being at that stadium for 2 games, who thought they were going to be there for 1? Who thought they were going to be there in January? And I'm not counting, the Patriots are on New Year's Eve, so there wouldn't have been a home game in January. But who thought they were going to be at that stadium for a playoff game, a month ago? And now you got to look at being there for 2 or 3.
I hate the fact that the Bills, to their own detriment and their own fault, that they don't control their destiny for this. Beat Denver, completely different ball game. But you know what? Somebody has said, multiple people have said this, that if they beat Denver, Dorsey doesn't get fired, and maybe things don't change in games that they win otherwise, against the Chiefs, against the Jets a second time, against the Chargers.
You know what? Can I do a terrible hard pivot though, as we talk about, things that we need to happen or want to see happen? Are we completely ignoring this New England game?
No.
Are we complete? Because I'll tell you right now,
I'm trying not to.
I was, and on the way here, I caught Joe Miller on the morning show with GR, who kind of put New England's last 3 weeks in perspective, got the wheels turning a little bit in my head, and I was like, yo, man, we needed them to win a couple ball games for us in these last couple weeks, and they kind of did.
They ended Denver season effectively on the road.
So I'm like,
they beat the Bills too this year.
And they beat Pittsburgh when we wanted to get rid of them. Yeah. That was the one that started it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So they have road wins against Pittsburgh and Denver in the last 3 weeks, and curse you, Joe Miller, because that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's very accurate. Look, the reason why I'm more confident in the Bills isn't because I know this is going to sound stupid, but hear me out a little bit. not because they beat Kansas City, and not because they rolled Dallas, not because they got revenge against the Jets and played well when they usually play like shit. The game, not at the moment, but long term, that impressed me the most was actually the Chargers game on Saturday night. Did not play well, but all I looked past the Chargers, I gave them no chance. All the ingredients for a kind of game the Bills lose were in place. The trap game, short week, West Coast trip, a shitty opponent, team that had nothing to lose. Brand new head coach, some new energy. I never even thought twice about the Bills potentially losing that game until the game happened. Then I was losing my goddamn mind like everybody else. But the fact that the Bills pulled that game out at the end, I feel like in October, the Bills lose that game 9.5 out of 10 times. So I don't want the Bills to go out and play ugly at home against New England, but I feel like the Bills, even if they do, they'll find a way to win now.
I can't go as far as to say that I can't go as far as to give the Bills any credit for pulling it out and looking at it as a positive against the Chargers. But I have no problem going as far as to say it didn't bother me at all. It didn't sway me at all as far as, their playoff contender status is concerned. Like, do I knock them down a peg in the AFC power rankings, if you will, towards who's gonna go come out of the AFC for the Super Bowl? No, the Chargers game, right, Nate, gave me no pause, for that. But I'm not gonna give them any sort of marks for pulling it out, even though I get what you're saying. All right, I get what you're saying. That was one that they were finding ways to lose those games earlier in the year.
The defense won the game, which they haven't been doing. I feel confident now, or at least more confident now, that if the Bills' offense isn't clicking, I felt it was Josh Allen plays great or this team's going to lose, unless they're playing a really, really shitty team. Now I feel like the defense is very capable of making multiple stops and getting a turnover or two if that's what it's going to take, and pulling out a game, even if Josh Allen is not playing nowhere near his best that day.
Yeah, and high marks to McDermott for his defensive calls, I think, in that game. He sat back in the usual, bend but don't break, and it was hurting him. And, I mean, we weren't getting home, bro. We were not getting home at all. And he started to dial up the pressure, and it made a lot of difference. It made a ton of difference, and I would expect to see that was a huge play. Although that was the only play, I'm interested to know for you. I sat on the couch and watched that game in utter disbelief that we at times looked like we were going to give that one back after all that we had done to climb. I was mad, but I was really just I was quiet. I was quiet. No fist bumps, even like the Gabe long ball. Good plays that normally lead to the one of them bad boys. I did not a single one. Okay, until the Oliver sack, and when we got the Oliver sack, at that point, almost involuntarily flew off the couch.
Sure.
Gave it the bump, because that's the one that gave us the dub.
If I'm being completely honest with you, Saturday night, pretty hammered. Watching the game with a bunch of people in my house.
You're making a comeback. Dude.
I am making
you
a comeback.
are making
I am a
comeback.
I'm a Saturday night warrior. There's no question about it. One day a week I let loose. It was Saturday. So, yeah, but I was very overly emotional during the game.
Oh, fact, so you were barking.
A good friend of mine who was at the house. I've hung out with him hundreds of times, but we've never watched the Bills game together. So we watched the game Saturday at my house, and then Christmas night after family stuff, I met up with a couple of my buddies, and we went out for a beer. I think a group of 6 of us, and that guy was there, and he literally told me, he goes, "I can't believe how angry you are when you're watching football." He goes, "Holy shit, you're scaring me. You're so angry." Because I was nervous and afraid that they were going to give away what you said. All the work they put in, because you would have just been giving it back if you lose to the Chargers. Yeah, look, dude, Ed Oliver, I wanted to make sure we mentioned him too, because he's come up big this year. I've been very hot and cold with Ed Oliver because he looks really, really good for flashes. Since he came into this league, he's put up some pretty good numbers. He got the contract. But Ed Oliver, to me, has disappeared in a lot of big moments prior to this season. And then I'm like, he got a big contract. Not that I thought the contract was outrageous, because I knew a couple more guys get signed. It would end up being middle of the pack among the good tackles, which that's pretty much what it is. But anyway, my point is he's been huge this year. He's been big. I would make a case. I mentioned this to Anthony Marino yesterday. If you told me Ed Oliver has been the most consistently good player on this football team this entire season over 15 games, I think you'd have a really strong case for saying that. Josh has been better at times. Diggs has been better at times. Bernard, a couple of these other guys. But Ed Oliver, week in and week out, has been really, really good this entire season.
I'm certainly willing to give him the defensive MVP.
Yeah,
I'll do that. And we're talking about an offense that hasn't exactly shined a ton this season,
No.
so it puts him in the conversation, on the overall MVP of this team for this year as well too. Great signing, great contract. I think a lot of people were surprised that they did it. I think a lot of people thought that the Bills would walk away from Oliver. Maybe not a lot, but there were certainly, it seemed.
I thought it was a real chance.
It seemed, 50-50-ish.
And I would have been all right with it after last year. That Bengals game, he was a no-show in the playoff game. He didn't play well against Miami either. I mean, he's not the only one. Lots of guys on the defense didn't do shit.
And now I'll offer you a less terrible pivot. Now he may be getting his best version of a running mate next to him in the trenches back this week.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Anthony Marino brought up a good point, too. We kind of weaving back and forth with the Bills Patriots this weekend. Ed Oliver didn't play that game in Foxborough where they lost. He was hurt. So not only did they not have Milano and Daquan Jones and Trey White because they didn't have Rasul Douglas at the time, but Ed Oliver also didn't play that game.
I do remember him going through a stretch this year where he was dealing with an injury.
Yep.
I think I would have, if you would have asked me, has he played them all? I think I would have remembered him not playing in one or two or something like that. So no, that comes as no surprise that that it was a game where the defense definitely struggled.
I want to ask you an honest question. Sean McDermott in that article, and we keep going back to it because I just think it carries some significance. Do you think that was a legitimate rallying cry for this team? And before you answer, I'll let people know who are watching or listening. You and I kind of had the same view on the article. We both, for the most part, enjoyed the article. We found it informative. We thought maybe in some parts, and I've told Tyler this, that maybe it went a little bit too far on some of the personal stuff, but I think the purpose was to outline his failures as a coach and some of the awkwardness with his communication skills. But we also know that Tyler is a very talented, incredible journalist, whereas some Bills fans think he's the biggest hack to ever walk God's green earth. But anyway, my question to you
is
us.
I hate getting fucking biggest hack.
Do you think that article,
because
since it came out, the Bills have not lost, and since that article came out, this defense has been pretty much lights out, and they've closed out games too.
Bro, football team, I mean, this goes down to even the youth levels. All right, it's such a clown show sometimes. They will use anything for a rallying point. So yes, unequivocally. Yes, they used this article and their support. Well, sure. I mean, there's a pretty realistic chance that a lot of this could have played out the same way, anyways.
Sure.
The thing I like about the article, though, as far as the response to it as it relates to the football field, is I think McDermott is kind of has a little bit of a gunslinger mentality now. Not necessarily like like he can just throw complete caution to the wind, but I feel like we're going to see a more aggressive version of McDermott. Okay, even though this wasn't a big part of the article or not really referenced in terms of the communication issues and some of the other follies along the way.
Mhm.
I think the conservative approach, the choking, man, I just don't think he's gonna go down. All right, choking away conservatively. All right, if I'm sitting here trying to beat back a little bit of a choke,
Mm-hmm.
then my response is going to be, I think, one of a little more assertiveness, and I think we're going to see a more aggressive Sean McDermott in this postseason. Didn't we have an early fourth down? Went for it early on fourth down in that Charger game, or maybe it wasn't the Charger game. Maybe it was the
It
Chief
was
game.
Dallas. I thought it was Dallas.
Was it
maybe.
Dallas? The one where Josh had to
It
do
was
like
Dallas.
the play fake and then
3 times as Kincaid.
slide it
It was
underneath
Dallas.
someone's arm.
Yeah.
That I think we're going to see a more aggressive McDermott. Of all the things in the article that the Bills may want to glom onto as far as rallying cries, none of that matters to me more than the fact than how McDermott, fucking, I don't care if it's the pressure he puts on himself. It ain't my heart. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
Whatever. I think he might just really be just that much more dialed in from it, bro. I mean, that much more motivated. I get it. Like, professional coaches, athletes, they don't need motivation. A lot of people say that. I am not a believer in that. I think McDermott is coaching very motivated right now, and I think that motivation, as it relates to what we're going to see on the football field, how that may translate to the football field, I think he's going to be Big Nut Sean over the course of the next month. I really do.
I don't disagree with you, but it is worth saying that he has been aggressive at times when it didn't work. You go back to that Denver game, they got a sack, it's third, and they're out of field goal range, and he brought a fucking jailhouse blitz and got burned because Teron Johnson got that penalty deep on Jerry Jeudy that set up that winning field goal. So, I mean, he has been aggressive at times, but I think offensively, especially, I think he will be more aggressive and have confidence in Josh Allen. For an example, I think right now, if the Bills played Philadelphia again and they got in that situation again where the Bills had the ball in overtime instead of kicking that field goal, I think this new Sean McDermott, I think would have went for it on fourth down instead of selling for the field goal and having to completely trust his defense that couldn't make a stop. Philly scored like 30 points in the goddamn second half of the game.
I like that. I like that particular scenario as one that could potentially be different under new Sean, but I'm going to always go back to the down and distance in that particular spot. And it was just a down and distance where the percentages dropped dramatically after at 4th and 5 to 4th and 7. That one never bothered me to tell you the truth. 4th and 7's that's a big boy, man.
Sure.
That's a big boy in a tie ball game.
Well, I'll tell you one other decision that he might make or have to make, whether it's this Sunday, whether it's next week in Miami. Hopefully, the playoffs. I don't want to get there before they're there. When we talk playoffs. But news with the team, by the way. AJ Epenesa, no contact. I don't know if he's going to play. You mentioned Daquan Jones. It certainly looks like he will be active on Sunday. Nothing official, of course. We'll see what happens with Hyde. Low-key injury I'm a little concerned about is Terrell Bernard with an ankle has been limited the last couple of days. I'd be really careful with him, especially this week. You got to have confidence Dorian Williams can get it done against the Patriots. If he's not right, you don't play him because you need him against Miami. But anyway, my point about McDermott is let's talk Von Miller before we get to a break here and then hit up the Sabres real quick. Von Miller talked today for the first time since the bye week when he was arrested, detained, whatever the hell you want to call it. What's your make on that? The one thing I want to say is he had a statement, then he took some questions, And what annoyed me the most about all of it is he spoke of, you know, denying, of course, the allegations is false. That none of that surprising to me. But he spoke of it like it was journalists, like it was writers writing shit about him. Like these were stories out in the newspaper about him that he was in denial mode. It's like, does he not know that we all know that there was literally a police report out there with information that there's a 9/11 phone call? You know what I mean? He's making it sound like Tim Graham wrote a story about Von Miller, you know, and making shit up. Like there's fucking police reports out there and stuff like that. And you just I hated the way he talked today. I didn't want to hear from him, by the way. I don't know how you feel about it, but I did not want to hear from him about this. And I was not pleased with what I heard today. I don't know about you.
I was off the grid for a few hours today. A little midday nap action. Had a basketball game this morning into a midday nap, followed by another basketball before I came here. Played a little catch up on the old Twitter box, and I guess the best way I can answer this is, of all the things that I was scrolling today to catch up on, I scrolled right past that shit. All right. The response was predictable. The way that the fan base is internalizing it, you know, right now. Well, it's not the word I want there, but the way the fan base is reacting to it is still, to me, driven by his ineffectiveness as a football player.
You're right. And you said that a couple of weeks ago. I want to point that out. You said it a few weeks ago. I think you said what a lot of people feel, but not everybody necessarily would say, that if Von Miller was playing like at a level that Ed Oliver has been playing at, there'd be a lot more people saying, innocent until proven guilty. It'd be, you know, oh, that's his personal life. I'm a fan. I just want him to do well on the field, blah, 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 blah. But the fact that he is being complete shit on the field has definitely driven the perception and how fans are reacting to this.
Yeah,
I agree.
Makes it easy to take the proper social stand on it.
Sure.
But, you know, it's funny because, you know, it's the second Von Miller bit from, you know, today, nugget from today, and I was far more interested in the other Von Miller nugget from today, although I could be confusing the days. This might have been yesterday, but it was defensive line coach Eric Washington's response to the usage of Miller, and that to me was a more interesting read than anything that Von Miller went to the podium and said. And I think judging by what
he said, Vaughn's presence or something helped Poona Ford get a sack.
Whatever. I'll buy that. Okay. Like, I'm not on. I think Miller's probably kind of a piece of shit, man. I'm just, you know, as far as the other stuff is concerned, but I will buy the usage strategy if that strategy is truly what Washington laid it out as. It's not necessarily about, you know, he's earned those reps or he's deserving of that, you know, strictly on reputation. It's because at times he looks like he may just find that bend and explode into a quarterback. I know we haven't seen it. But I'm not that guy that necessarily looks at number 40 lining up on the football field and I'm just like, Jesus, what is wrong with them? No, man. If you're telling me that he's probably, you know, gonna get your fourth highest number of snaps after, you know, we'll say Rousseau, Floyd, and Epinesa when healthy. I know Kingsley Jonathan has shown flashes, but I'm still
Lawson.
And Lawson I think is more in run scenarios.
Sure. Yeah.
In a perfect world, his usage is more in potential rundowns. I'm fine with them rolling Von Miller out there. You know, maybe a quarter to 40% of the time. I'm
Because
fine.
you're hoping it's going to be the week where he does something. I don't see it happening. It's one thing to not be effective. I'm seeing, and you're seeing anybody. You don't need to be Eric Turner or Joe Marino to know this shit, man. There's a lack of effort. There's a lack of hustle. He is mailing it. He is dogging it out there a lot.
At the end of the day, it is no less likely to happen for Von than it is for any other schmuck playing the fourth number of defensive end snaps on their football team.
That's fair, but I don't need to see a fourth defensive end a lot. I want to see a lot more results.
Well, that's how they roll.
But
That's how they play.
Look, in fairness to Vaughn, in my opinion, is skewed because he tore his ACL. Before Thanksgiving last year, he was as good as advertised. He had like 8.5 sacks at Thanksgiving. So it wasn't like he was some bum that got overpaid. He was great, and then he got hurt. But since he's gotten hurt, besides the obvious of doing nothing on the field, besides obviously what allegedly happened in Texas, this dude has just talked more shit about players coming here. This guy's coming here, the trades, this and that. Can I read you what I consider an elite tweet from somebody? I don't know who this person is, but they tweeted this today about Von Miller. Name's Glenn Spencer. Tell me this does not fit Von Miller to a T. I've been saying since preseason with this guy, when all is said and done, more will be said than done. That's solid, dude, because the dude talks and he ain't doing nothing. I don't want him on the field no more. If I'm Sean McDermott and I talked, at the beginning of this conversation here, I was like, some tough decisions for Sean. I don't need him on the field, man. I'd rather have Shaq Lawson as that fourth end. He might make a stop against the run. I don't think Von Miller is any use to this team. I'd love to be wrong. I'll play this clip and call myself out if Von Miller has a big sack against the Patriots or Miami. But I think he is, for this year, toast. He's not coming back this year. He's not going to go from dogging it and doing nothing to becoming a factor in a meaningful game. I just don't see it.
Well, man, we'll see if he smells that if he smells that Lombardi trophy. We'll see. But here's the thing, man. Okay, I don't know what the Von Miller story, how the Von Miller story as a Bill is gonna play out. He's still owed a big chunk of change.
Oh, he'll be here next year.
That sort of thing. So maybe he comes back next year and he's the Von Miller of old for another year or two. Great, whatever. But what's real is right now. Yeah. What's real is the way we opened up the show with there suddenly being an opening to for this team to crash through and make some noise in the playoffs. You're not gonna try to crash through that without Von Miller. You're just gonna do it. You can't, as ineffective as he looks at times, you can't be the franchise that invested that much money into a guy, and then when healthy in a Super Bowl window with a real look at it, that guy's on the bench. Look, I'm not calling for him to surpass.
I get what you're saying.
I'm not calling for him to get more reps than Floyd. I'm just saying the aura of Miller, the threat of what he was, man. You got to be pretty ballsy as an offensive line coach, even looking at the film and saying this guy couldn't even beat our second string tackle right now. You got to be pretty ballsy to leave him singled up and pay him no mind.
Do you want to, my last point here on Miller, and then I want to talk Sabres. I'll tell you why I'm completely out on him, because you would think that after what happened in Texas during the bye week and all the scrutiny he's getting, which quite obviously is deserved. I mean, he's lucky he's not suspended or any of that shit. But you would think that he would risk tearing that ACL off the ball, off his leg. He'd have his leg fall off during the game trying to make a play, trying to get back in the good graces of his teammates, his coaches, the fans. He is still out there, and he's still fucking dogging it.
Maybe you would think that. I wouldn't think that.
I'm telling
you. Look, and
he ain't thinking that because he's not doing it. Is he saving it for Miami? Is he saving it for the playoffs? You sound like you're willing to roll the dice that he is.
I'm willing to roll the dice that a future Hall of Fame guy getting the third or fourth amount of snaps over Kingsley Jonathan
I like
is
Kingsley. Be careful.
okay by me. I got no problem with him, but I'm still dressing Bond first.
All right, let's take a real quick break, like literally a 5-second break. Come back and we'll talk a little bit of Sabres here live from Imperial Pizza. All right, we are live here at Imperial Pizza. Pretty late on a Thursday night. Cleveland Browns game just getting started, not on that TV, but on that TV.
That game matters. I'd like to say it matters because if
people, it'll be done by the time people listen to this. But yeah, I think it matters. It does matter.
If Miami should beat Baltimore and we've got to look 4-5, right? 4-5. Like, because right now Cleveland is entrenched in the 4. Or I'm sorry,
5.
in 5. Sorry, that's right. Cleveland's entrenched in the 5.
They lose both games and the Bills win both. The Bills will go to 5.
Exactly.
So now you're talking going to Jacksonville probably in round 1 instead of
Kansas
City. Even though say what you want about Kansas City,
I don't want to go there.
Shitty.
I don't want to go there.
I don't either. I don't prefer. I'm not afraid to. I'm not afraid to. But I'd rather go to Jacksonville.
I'd rather go to Jacksonville or be here.
Any
scenario, I want to try to avoid Kansas City. And
agreed.
I'm not even going to lie. I'm not even going to lie. I would love to avoid Miami in the first round.
Sure, me too.
As well.
Absolutely. And if you're the 2 seed, you will avoid Miami in the first round. And if you're the 4 seed, you're going to avoid Miami, or the 5 seed, I'm sorry, in the first round. 6, you're almost certainly going to Kansas City. Bills have won there 3 straight years. I get it. And we'll cross that bridge when we go to it. But the fact we're talking playoffs is cool because as we transition here in a few minutes of Sabres talk, that's the last fucking thing on my mind, on your mind, or anyone's mind right now.
I think I'm going to go to Bills playoff games.
Playoffs. Yeah,
yeah.
How many games have you been to?
1.
Out of what? 6 now?
1,
7?
bro.
1 out is because the last one's 8 coming up here. I've only been to 1 out of 7.
I have just dumped. But hey, I at least I can still get us to our Sabre topic. I at least made a couple bucks on the Dallas tickets. Part of this was because I put them up late. I put them up the day of the game, Sabres and Leafs. But I couldn't even get 50 for my pair.
That's crazy.
For Sabres Leafs. I know what I did wrong there. My plan was always to go. My plan was, all right, we're going to slap Columbus around, and it's going to have that arena is going to be, like holiday hopping for the Leafs. And then we get smacked by Columbus. I'm disgusted. I want out. I throw the Leafs tickets up day of, and that's tougher, to grab Toronto fans the day of. You know what I mean? They're looking to get them in advance and make a day of it. So part of it was my own issue there. But yeah, we are back to a place with the Sabres. I got Columbus tickets for Saturday. I'd be lucky to end up with a pack of Parliament lights out of them. Okay. I mean, just, they have just taken the air out of the balloon again. And oh my God, are they exhausting.
During COVID, I used to have Joe Yurden on every single week. This was before he had the audacity to get a full gig covering the Sabres where he's at every game and practice, so I barely get to have him on the show anymore. But anyway, during those days, I was so out on the Sabres, and every single week I'd have Joe on, and it would just turn into me. I legitimately hated the Buffalo Sabres at the time. This is when Eichel wanted out, and for good reason, and the whole Reinhardt shit, and keep going on and on and on. Anyway, I hated that team with a passion at the time. Like, I rooted for them to lose. I wanted bad things to happen to that team. I was out on them completely, and Joe would get kind of sick of me doing that every week, and we talk off camera about that, but that's just how I felt. And I got excited like everybody else. I am verging on being back to where I was a couple years ago. Like, I don't want to watch this team right now. I hate the fact that we have to devote time to this podcast to even talk about this team right now. They're not good. They're 4 games under 500. They are textbook overrated. Like all summer long, everyone talking about this team as a team to watch, a playoff team, someone who could potentially do damage. They are legitimately overrated. They're not fun to watch, and they're not likable. I don't think this team's even likable right now, man. They're the head coach. What's going on with him? A year ago, I thought this was their guy. I was kind of happy he got an extension. Now I'm wondering what the hell's going on with him. And you got a GM who's got 3 guys that he signed as free agents that are in Rochester right now. There was an article today Lance Zalski wrote in the Buffalo News about that. Like Terry Pegula wanted to cut down on money for Rochester, and they got like $7 million tied up in 3 players who cleared waivers, currently in Rochester. Do you kind of get a sense right now that, I don't know if it's because of the expectations were higher than past years, but like fans don't like this hockey team right now. I don't.
No, you're seeing a lot of Sabre X nerds who like live and die by it.
Yeah.
Just like they're bowing out on podcasts that they were enjoying a lot about a month ago. All right. Yeah. Chad, like some of Chad's legion of casters, all right, who are very good and funny.
Sure.
There's Anthony's guy Anthony,
his partner, he's good.
Does the yes, entertaining as shit, man, and he's just exhausted with him, man. Like he had a tweet like today or yesterday, sleep versus pod is no longer even in I'm going to sleep.
Where we're at?
I'll catch y'all on that pod.
Where we're at? The team's so bad that I'm getting the daily fans versus Mike Harrington shit now on Twitter, where Mike gets really pissed off and at times condescending with fans. In fairness to him, some fans just say some really dumbass shit, but it's becoming that feud. It was like that a little bit with the Bills earlier this year when they were struggling, but that's what it's gotten down to with the Sabres. I remember a couple of years ago, Mike Harrington would be fighting with fans like pretty much every single game, and we're back at that already.
But
I don't know, maybe it's just shocking.
It's still...
How shocked are you?
Quite a bit. Yeah. Quite a bit, man. Like I thought the only way that this group was going was
What's
up.
The most shocking thing about this team right now to you? Like, what surprises you the most? Not so much as a whole, because we're both surprised. Everyone's surprised that they're not better. But if there's one area, one player, one part of this team that most surprises you, and of course in a negative light right now about this team?
Well, this is probably down a little bit on the list of reasons why they're struggling. But one of the biggest surprises to me is how poorly some of the early contracts are playing up to their values. I start with power. I start with power. I get it. Look, I'm not a hockey honk, man. I don't follow it close enough to know how inevitable these hiccups are in the in young defensemen. I saw it with Dahlin, but the difference with Dahlin for me was they waited. They used those shit years of Dahlin, those down years, those growing pains years, on a bridge, right? They gave Dahlin a bridge contract for those. To me, when you just go out there and throw, the big boy at Power and Samuelson, I was sticking with the defense.
Oh, okay,
but Cousins, no question, dude.
Yeah,
man. I mean, like, I did not expect the massive gap between their contract and where they are right now. I mean, Samuelson and Power. Look, people love to beat up the signings, the off-season defensive signings. I get it. Their metrics are bad, all those sort of things. But I don't know that we would be hung up on how terrible they are if the top 4 were playing anywhere near what you're paying them to play. And Power just looks god awful some nights.
He does.
awful.
Naked eye
Man.
test is bad. Like, I'm not an analytics guy. I'm not a hockey guru by any means, but I understand the game. I watch the games, and sometimes I look at Owen Power. I'm like, this is the number one overall pick. This is the guy they committed a lot of money and a lot of years to. He looks like a borderline third line defenseman at times, and he is young. I mean, he's gonna grow. I would hope that he better grow physically and just mentally with the game. But yeah, it's shaky as shit, man. Even Samuelson too. He's had a pretty rough year. Like, he's taking a beating with you like to say, the hockey nerds. They're kind of giving it to him.
Yeah.
Deserved too.
Boy, those contracts all seem very premature right now.
When it Cousins too, do you agree with Cousins?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. I just
you starting to wonder a little bit about Adams? Like, I get it at the time. Maybe I do anyway. It's not my job to get it. It's literally his job to know. But you got a nice little young core, and you're like, we're gonna lock all these guys up for 6-7 years. Maybe they're not quite as good as he thought. And again, signing guys who are just re-signing guys like Tyson Jost. Like, they got 12 healthy forwards now, and I'm not even counting Olofsson. I'm not even counting Rosine. I'm counting Kulik. And like, why do you resign this guy? For what? What was the purpose of resigning him to begin with? Terry McGulla can't be happy about that. Reading Lance's article anyway.
When the Sabres are healthy and roll the current top 9 that they rolled for about a week until
I like it.
It's what it seemed like was the back end, the bottom, the bottom 6, the bottom pairing on defense, all those sort of things. I mean, that seemed like the need. I didn't have a problem with Adams off season until the season started, and
injuries have mattered too. That's fair. I mean, you're right about the defense, but I think you're spot on about Power and Samuelson. But forward wise, I mean, when is this team until now been healthy at the same time? It's been Tage out, and it's been Skinner out,
and what sucks too is
talked twice.
Olofsson is a guy that you feel that you wish you could plug into your top 9. Like, how does I got a 28 goal scorer making like 4+ a year or something, like closer to 5. My superstar center goes down, for personal reasons for a big game, and I know it's a different position, but like, I can't even move Olofsson into my top 9. I moved Tyson Jost up there. It's just so many head scratchers. But I'm more in on Adams than I am Granato.
What do you mean by in? You're more in as in being mad at him, or more in as in you trust him more?
I trust him more. Like I would prefer to see Adams get a chance to pick his own. I don't want to say pick his own head coach, because ultimately, he did hire. Well, before even extending him, though, you know what I mean? I mean, I believe they did a coach search, and then they decided to stay in-house with Granato.
Sure.
I would like, Adams to have the ability. Well, basically, I think maybe I'm just saying, I want to see if Kevin Adams can go get me Rob Brindamore. You know what I mean?
Well,
but I think if it comes to pass, and it's going to be one or the other, it's never going to be Granato without Adams. It's not like Pagula is going to be like, you stay and Adams goes. There's a true pecking order. I think most of us would say there's a true pecking order in the coach and GM of the Sabres, unlike the Bills.
Yeah.
Unlike the
I was going to say, not the Bills.
The Bills is opposite.
Right.
You know what I mean? But so I think Adams is on more stable ground, and I personally am still a believer in Adams with the way that he has, filled the cupboards back up prospect wise and stuff like that. Other than, maybe someone clamoring here or there for like a Thomas Tatar or something like that during the course of the offseason, nobody really had a problem with running, the top 9 back. You know what I mean? Thinking maybe that Savoy would be, the insertion more so than Benson, but whatever. I'm okay giving Adams a chance to fix what he sees right now, but Granato's the one where I'm starting to look at it like, God,
If
man,
enough players are underperforming, you got to look at the coach, right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
have to.
yeah.
I think Adams' big mistake this season has been thinking that in-house could, with the injuries that they've had, not going outside. There's been a lot of hot take opinions on Pat Kane when he was out there, and most people thought it was a bad idea. Some really smart hockey people too thought it was a bad idea to sign Pat Kane. Chris Baker, who reminds me a lot, by the way, that he was in on Pat Kane. Dude's got 11 points in 11 games with with Detroit. He's got 6 goals and 5 assists in 11 games. You're going to tell me right now the Sabres couldn't use that offense, waiting for Jack Quinn to get healthy? I mean, he just came back recently, but he has played 11 games now, is my point. They just sat by idly. So, I don't know, man. But, yeah, the players are just underperforming. You got to take a look at the head coach, which, by the way, he's got an extension, I believe, to 2026. Not to say that Pagula wouldn't fire him. I don't know,
January's still huge. I said this the last time the last time we talked, and I know that there's been some ups and downs since, as far as the clunkers and then the comeback, and then the way they laid it on Toronto and then a Boston clunker.
Sure.
But it's that January stretch, all right, is still it's so
and they haven't been healthy to now either.
There are January is a month to really, really rack them. All right,
they have to.
And if they don't rack them in January, then I'm ready to start calling probably for the coach. You know what I mean? Like if they should lose ground in January, okay, then I would just assume kick that team in the ass. I would make them go through the discomfort of having their coach fired in season. Let them feel that shit. I'm not looking to necessarily turn the season around, okay? But if we dig ourselves in a deeper hole or don't, climb to within 4 to 6 of a spot, because we're also
and leap a couple teams too.
Then I'm probably gonna look at this group and say, I gotta really make you uncomfortable here, and I think the coach's job should be in question. Do you see without a January advance?
Do you see a spark, maybe a potential need a spark situation like with the Bills when they fired Ken Dorsey in season? Maybe Ennis, the special teams, because the fucking power play is god awful. You want to talk about atrocious? That power play is unwatchable. Special teams is not good. They could get rid of him. I mean, by the way, he was never a scorer when he played. When the hell did he ever score in a power play?
But don't be that guy.
I am going to be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
I don't know what I'm doing here at Imperial. If I go start making pizzas, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, that's not what? Listen. So what then? By that logic, all right, like awesome backup catchers that couldn't hit the ball for shit.
Have the best managers.
Yeah, they do. They
do. All right, fine. But anyway, the special teams is just ridiculously bad. Like
Eric Chavez is also a very good hitting coach. All right, he's about a 240 career hitter.
Eric Chavez talk means that's about time to wrap up this episode.
No, there's not. It means there's about time to get into some baseball conversation.
No, it's not. We're actually going to get into some wings here at Imperial in just a few minutes. One last thing with the Sabres, though, that I find fascinating, not really related to right now, but soon enough. So I think we both like at least the top 9 for sure. Those are good lines. And then you look at guys, Kulik, Savoy, Rosane. Those guys are going to be coming up at some point. There's not room. They're not fourth line checkers. You might be able to give Greenway could be a fourth liner. He's a top 9 now, but he can be a really good fourth liner. Krebs, if you want to keep him on the fourth line, if not, he's among those guys. Like, there's going to be some tough Kevin Adams decisions because there's just not enough roster spots. I mean, that top 6 is pretty much locked in. Benson is going to be a top 9 guy. He's locked in. If Middlestat stays there, he's locked in. But they're going to have some tough choices to make right now. Some of those guys who are really good, talented first-round prospects, I didn't even say Noah Ostlund. He's another one who will be up maybe at some point. They're going to have some tough decisions to make here, which I hope I'm still watching the team. I'm telling you right now, they keep doing this shit, I'm out. I won't give a shit.
Yeah, man, it is going to be tough. And one of the trickier things, and this opens a whole different can of worms that we're not going to get into here as we wind down. But I don't think Jeff Skinner and Alex Tuck are first line wingers.
They were last year.
Yeah, they had a good stat year. I think we may have just kind of as much as we may like the top nine because of its depth, because we can put out Casey Middlestat,
sure,
Greenway, and Benson and as a third line, and the depth is great. I'm wondering if we just, and this is true, across the roster. I'm just Skinner we were stuck with, but I'm just wondering if we're wrong about how good our quote unquote first line is. And if that's the case, holy cow, that could be a problem.
It could, but
could be a huge problem, man.
They're good. They got, whether they're first liners or second liners, they're going to have too many bodies at forward.
I get it. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying there.
All right. We're going to get out of here, by the way, as we're finishing up here. It's 7-7 Jets Browns right now. And it would be nice for the Jets to win this game. So are you going to the game Sunday?
No, this Sunday?
Yeah.
I'm playoff Tony, man.
So you're playoff. So you are going to end up going 1 for 8 this year. One home game you went to out of 8. Haven't season tickets.
Well, one of the home games was in London. The Jacksonville game was
that was 9. They had 9 home games this year, so I didn't even count it.
Okay,
so
one
you
for
still
8.
only went 1.
One for 8. Kind of like my son's doubleheader stats at Brockport. Set your clock to it, baby. For 8.
While the Bills are playing, Miami is playing Baltimore at 1:00 too on Sunday. So there's going to be a lot of
yeah, man.
watching.
I ain't trying to not be dialed into that game.
And for people out there, I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast an hour and you're a sports fan, you probably know this, but the Bills need 2 out of 3. Jacksonville to lose to Carolina, which ain't happening. Pittsburgh losing at Seattle, very much could happen. Cincinnati losing at Kansas City, very much could happen. If Cincinnati and Pittsburgh lose and the Bills win, the Bills are locked into the playoffs. Those games are 4:30 games solo. So you won't know for sure if the Bills are officially in the playoffs until about 7:30 on Sunday. But you will know by about 4:30, 4:45 or so, if the Bills are going to have a shot at playing for, I don't even want to say the division anymore because it's more than that. It is the number 2 seed. It's quite simple. Baltimore beats Miami, the Bills beat New England. They're playing for not just the division. They're playing for the 2 seed. Fun shit, man. All right, it's going to do it here live from Imperial Pizza. I might have lied to you. I said this was the last episode of the year. It might not be. I don't know yet.
I won't. 2 things. A, I won't be crushed. B, I won't be available.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.